This is a Football Manager channel where I share with you tips, tricks, hacks, guides, you name it. I try and get it out there. And on today's show, I've got a weapon for you for the game of Football Manager. It's a weapon so good, even Miles Jacobsen says it's too hard to ignore. My name is Daljit. Welcome to the show. My name is Daljit. I'm also a moderator on the SI forums. My handle there is Rashidi. I moderate the tactics and training forums. I frequently write guides and try and help you guys out on the forums too. And I'm also in certain quarters guy that they watch in case I hack the game again. Because yes, there was a time when we were hacking the game quite regularly. But I'm older. I want to have more fun. Hacking, I leave it to the younger guys. I just want to share with you how I play the game. And in the last couple of years, I've done lots of guides on the channel, so you may want to check them out. If you're struggling with tactics, this is the place you should be coming to. And if you want some help, pop it on my live streams, because I stream 3 times a week here on YouTube, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's always the same time. And occasionally on weekends, if I have time, I also stream on Twitch. On today's show, I'm going to focus on something called opposition instructions. Now, hang on there. I know some of you are going to just leave right away, but I want you to hear me out for a while. Miles Jacobsen at the start of FM21 said that opposition instructions are deadly. They're very strong in the game, and I tend to agree. Now, the reason why a lot of people believe that OIs don't really work is because, honestly, OIs on their own, they're not as effective. But when you merge them with specific instructions, like specific position marking or specific name player marking, they become very, very powerful. So powerful, in fact, that my community on the Discord channel now is thinking up names, and I'm very partial to calling this weapon Iron Maiden, because like the Iron Maiden torture device, it frustrates people and locks them down, and that's exactly what I want this weapon to do. So I've been using this set of instructions. If you guys were following me on a stream recently, that's exactly what I did to nullify United and then nullify AC Milan as well, with Nottingham Forest, who have players that are from Division 1, and they are playing so well. They just completely shut AC Milan up by just using OIs a bit more imaginatively. So on today's show, that's what I plan to do. I plan to show you how I use OIs, and maybe, just maybe, it might spark a couple of ideas for you, and you might be inspired to try something on your own, which is what I'm really hoping for. Opposition instructions coupled with specific player instructions double down and make this one of the best options for shutting down flank threats, long range threats, nullifying playmakers, only if you set them up right, and only if you ignore your assistant manager. So the first thing you want to do is clear out all your assistant manager's power when it comes to setting up opposition instructions. I will explain what these OIs are, what they do, and how I go about setting them up. I will also show you what I'm looking for and why sometimes these OIs don't work. If you're a fan of the low or middle block and enjoy playing with underdog sides, then this is a tool you want to add to your arsenal. First, let me explain OIs really quickly. Tight marking. The game defaults to zonal marking, so tight marking tells players to stick closer to their targets when they enter their zone. Pressing intensity. A specific player will be targeted when he enters a player's zone. He's immediately pressed, making zonal marking tighter. Show onto foot. Targets a player and forces him to turn to a side. He can be forced to his weaker foot or to specific sides. This really only has one situational use for me in the whole game, and I'll explain why later. Tight marking and pressing intensity do require attributes to work, so if you have a winger with 4 marking and has really poor defensive awareness, then he may at times fail to follow instructions very carefully. You can address these weaknesses through training. For that, I recommend using my complete training schedule, which targets a balanced approach to training. Or you just go out and sign a winger who has good work rate, bravery, and decent marking. Usually 8 to 10 is enough for wingers. Lower numbers could see them lose their target. Let's talk about how I use them next. I take OIs and mix them with specific man marking or position marking to create that perfect cocktail of frustration. You can use either one, both work. Specific man marking happens when you tell your player to mark a specific player. To do that, you just need to go to his play instructions and choose this option and assign someone for him to mark. Ideally, you want to choose someone on his side of the flank. The first option is to choose a specific player by name. The second option is to choose a specific position. Now, the second option is slightly less accurate and your players can make mistakes. Between the two options, the first one is the best option. The second one, well, it can be a bit unpredictable and sometimes you might lose your target. Your player might pick up the wrong player and he might type mark somebody else. So between the two, efficient, first option. Not so efficient, second option. Now don't ask me why I use the second option on my streams. I just love a bit of unpredictability. Let's combine them into a weapon. It's now time for Iron Maiden. Let's take type marking and merge this with specific man marking. My goal is to mark the fullbacks of the opposing sides so they don't come in for easy crosses. Let's see how this does. The first image shows me not using any opposition instructions. All I'm using are team instructions for type marking. And you can tell if I'm a big fan of this. In the second image, I'm using the Iron Maiden weapon, where I take the opposition instructions, type marking, and I merge it with player specific man marking. So it's clear, at least to me, and I hope it's clear to you, that OIs, when you marry them with specific position or specific player man marking, well, they work a lot better. Now, how do you use this as a strategy for mid block and high block systems? If I'm playing a high block, I opt to tight mark, press, and specifically man mark their fullbacks. This applies pressure to their backline and makes it harder to play the ball out from the back. I prefer this to prevent short goalkeeper distribution. You can even apply this to the goalkeeper who becomes the focus of any striker on your team. For low block systems, my strategy may change. For example, I could start matches telling my wingers to specifically man mark the opposition wingers. I will almost certainly assign these manually, making sure to specify them by name. This has the adverse effect of making it harder for you to counter, but your wingers keep tracking back, leaving your backline in a solid defensive shape. It makes you really hard to break down. Sometimes when I notice the opposition are throwing more into attack, that's when I change my specific man marking instructions. This time, I will tell my wingers to mark the opposition fullbacks. This is done so that I don't get overrun with easy crosses. I double down on this with tight marking and pressing intensity. It's an aggressive defensive strategy which the game actually recognizes. It even credited our defensive strategy in a recent match against United and called it Catenaccio. To be honest, I had taken a leaf out of Carlo Ancelotti's book when he took Everton to Anfield for a famous away win. In that match, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson were tracked for 90 minutes. Everton was playing a disciplined low block where the distance between its strikers and backline was hardly higher than 30 yards. Yes, I know that tight marking, generally, you want to use it against players who don't have a lot of great acceleration. Maybe you don't have a lot of good ball control. Yeah, but the challenge is this. When you play with a low block, you already play quite deep. There's not a lot of space behind you, right? The defensive line is set. So most sides are going to try and play the ball to the opposition winger's feet. And this, this strategy, well, it does run the risk of maybe he might be able to turn your defender. However, that presupposes he can control the ball in the first place. So when I set it up like this, I'm taking a risk, right? There's a chance he might not control it the first time. We put him under pressure. It's been 90 minutes. Let's try this out. It's a risk worth taking. The Iron Maiden strategy is really simple. Use OIs with type marking and specific position marking to take out players. Now, the goal is, in low blocks, is straightforward. Look out for the wingers. Put pressure on the wingers so that the fullbacks have to come up and support play. Otherwise, the wingers lose the ball. So the fullbacks have to come up. The moment the fullbacks come up, bang, you've got the space on the flanks to counter attack. That's straightforward. For high block systems, it's more like keeping the pressure going in the opposition third. So what you do is straightforward. You OI the entire backline. Don't stop at the goalkeeper. Just do it to the whole backline. So whenever the backline gets the ball, you're putting pressure on that backline. Now, this kind of strategies really work with certain formations like the 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, 4-1-4-1, 4-4-1-1, 4-2-4. These are your basic formations. It works really well with. Other formations, it might struggle because you just don't have the numbers to play that kind of a strategy up top. But for systems like the 5-3-2, you can definitely consider the low block strategy where you are applying OIs to opposition wingers. Definitely you have the numbers there in your third to do that kind of work. What about the other OIs? Yes, I'm enthusiastic and I want to share this with you. Long shot specialist, use the pressing intensity OI. Now you gotta be careful though. You don't want to go and set multiple guys with pressing intensity. This could tear your system apart. Pick one player. The one player is usually centrally placed. It's normally a DM. That is the one that you want to be careful of, because the rest of the players, they're going to run through traffic half the time. But their DM always has time and space on the ball. If he has long shots, you press him, so that if he comes up the pitch, somebody's going to engage him, which is what you want to do. And he can also use show on 2 foot, because if he's got a strong foot, if he favors his right to shoot, then you want to show him onto his weaker foot, forcing him to use his weaker foot, and that can sometimes unsettle these players. I continue my OI adventure on a live stream with Nottingham Forest, and this time around I was forced into a tactical change because of injury, so I had to play a 4-3-3, and we had to create this tactic on the fly, and I had to apply this OI strategy once again, right? Tweaking along the way. And lo and behold, we did it again. We shut them down on the flanks. In fact, they had a 0 point something XG. We didn't have a fantastic XG either, but we were playing a very aggressive defense. And we hit one perfectly to Maiten, and Maiten just played one ball. The defenders failed to clear it, and Lyle Taylor came in on the side that he usually favors when it comes to scoring chances, and bang, we got the 1-0 win. I know calling this Iron Maiden is a bit, out there, but seriously guys, I mean, when somebody suggested Iron Maiden on Discord for this strategy, it struck a bell, because I am actually putting the opposition in the Iron Maiden torture chamber and making them suffer, because they are struggling to create chances from the flanks. And if I use it in a high block system, then I'm putting pressure on their back line, so they're forced into clearing the balls, and I use the defensive line to create the trap. So I get a flank trap, or I get the opposite, right, with the high block. So it's a lot of fun, and I just wanted to share this with you guys so that you can actually experience it yourselves. Now, of course, if you have questions and you're struggling with getting this to work, please drop me a comment below and I'll do my best to help you guys out. And I want to thank the guys on Discord for sharing their names. I mean, they came up with a lot of names with this strategy, and we had some cool ones there too. But Iron Maiden definitely struck a nerve with me. Really like the strat's name. I want to thank everybody for your continued support of this channel. Now, there's many ways you can support this channel. You can, of course, become a YouTube member. You can support me on Patreon. Well, of course, there's so many things that happen on our private Discord servers. But yeah, that happens when you become a member of the channel through YouTube or on Patreon. But don't worry, if you can't support me that way, just hit the like, the subscribe button, ask me a question, and I'll probably end up doing a show for you. I want to thank everybody for your continued support of this channel. You are absolutely fantastic, and I love each and every one of you. You guys take care. Have a good one. I'll see you again soon. Bye.